While there hasn't been too much going on in the Sandbox world other than waiting for the OOG game Apocalypse changes that's coming to Sandbox sometime soon, we got some more interesting news clarifying a bit more details and adding more official statements directly through the most recent blog post on the Sandbox website. So within one of my most recent videos, I covered some of the statements that had led Garry to come out to the developer community and say that majority of games on Sandbox will not work a year from now, putting some developers in a state of panic as their current and once working projects and finished games on Sandbox will cease to stop working, at least for a while. But it's also mentioned in some of Garry's later statements that the specific changes will actually not be as bad as the infamous pain month that the whole developer community in Sandbox had to experience back in November of 2022. So that brings us back to today, September 17, 2023. In this new blog post, a good chunk of things I already talked about within my recent video have been mentioned here already, but I've decided to pick the most interesting topics worth talking about within this blog post. So if you want to see everything that the blog post has to offer and talk about, definitely check in the link down in the description below for more info. First off is the entity system. The entity system was the main system that allowed game developers and modders to keep track and add model assets, player spawn points, and more within their game on Sandbox. A lot of folks seemed rather confused as to why this would be removed, as most folks seeing this as the main system that was introduced long into Sandbox's development. According to the blog post, it seems more like Garry had more of a choice of what exact system would be implemented into Sandbox during the beginning of its development. Garry states that, at the time, the idea of implementing our own game loops seemed daunting, all the scene, physics, input, network management. Combine that with the fact that we wanted it to be a comfortable transition for people to come from Gmod. It seems like a no-brainer. Now, not only does that last part seem way more interesting since the end result is with this new system, Garry and Facepunch really want to have developers who already create and have been creating a good amount of content on Gmod to have a much smoother and simpler transition into Sandbox that will allow them to get adjusted not only to the tools presented, but to create content and get it out for the player to experience on the platform much quicker. Next is out of game. We just started learning more about this OOG system that was mentioned previously due to some statements that were made by Garry. In this area of the post, Garry talks about the specifics about OOG, but from my non-developer brain, this seems more in the realm of networking in the game. But it's mentioned in the last couple of sentences in this area. This is still a work in progress, but the progress is really encouraging. The more things we bring into C#, the more possibilities we see. The future of the engine is planning itself. In the work ahead section, it's mentioned how up until now, Garry and Facepunch really didn't want to reveal the plan of this new system that they've been working on for Sandbox until they were, and I quote, relatively sure that we could pull it off, and now we are. We're just finishing the first stage of the plan, which is the hardest stage. So it seems like they're more confident with the system and code that they've been planning to make this a reality moving forward with the game. And while they have been focusing on doing more of the hard work, as mentioned in this section, they mentioned more than likely that this will take a good couple of months before they can confidently show what they've been cooking up. And here's our last two statements that are very much worth pointing out within this blog post. It has been mentioned, and probably the main reason as to why you may not see that many Sandbox keys being spammed in any of the Sandbox Discord servers you're in, is because it was stated on the blog post that invites will start again when we're finished retooling, according to Garry. And the last statement that was taken from Garry in this blog post is his apology as to why him and Facepunch have been so incredibly quiet, as they have been putting in the work and focusing on trying to make their system work. Not only apologizing for the radio silence, but also apologizing for the idea of most of the games that the community has created within Sandbox will become unplayable over the next couple of months, that this new system shall be in development and rolled out within the game, stating, and I'm sorry, but this is why we haven't released it yet. This is a multi-decade project for us, so we want to get it right. With the end statement to mention that the game is a multi-decade project is a very interesting one to say, and it's putting into perspective the attitude that Garry and the team at Facepunch has for having the current plans of development for the game and its intention of sticking around just as long as Gmod has been for the last 17 years. Truly, it's very interesting to see this level of not only transparency during the development of the game, but also the level of interest and push that everyone involved with the development of the game is doing currently and has been playing over the last couple of years since Sandbox inception. Well, the next couple of words are mentioned in relation to one of Facepunch's recent games, Rust. Rust has been around for a very long time, around 10 years, and slowly approaching 11 years with its birthday in the next 3 months. Even with the mention of how long Rust has been in development for, and also Garry's slight hint at a Rust 2 sequel with his response to the whole Unity engine debacle, man, could you imagine how Rust 2 could look like if it was made on the Source 2 engine? I mean, Valve, the ball is in your court. If S&box does seem to be a hit with Source 2, which it could potentially be with a statement such as this from Garry himself, just let Facepunch take the reins on the Source 2 engine one more time for Rust 2, please. I can't speak for every Rust YouTuber out there, but please, just let them do it. It'll be worth it for everyone in the long run, and you're not a greedy corporation like Unity is. Anyways, if you really enjoyed this video, you'll definitely enjoy this other video, funnily enough, about how people are creating Garry's Mod 2 in 2023, but also within S&box. So thank you for watching.